Okay, so now we're going to talk about the outer surface or bark of your brain, right? This is, of course, the cortex, which is Latin for bark. And there is a great deal of cortex in the cerebrum, obviously, of primates like humans. And there's so much so that we actually divide it into various distinct sort of chunks. Let's go over some of these basic sort of cerebral cortical landmarks that we talked about earlier. So if you were to go find this kind of centrally located, sulcus, right, that extends down from the longitudinal fissure, right, which is this one across the top. Whoops, I get my finger on it, and extends all the way down, and centrally to the lateral or sylvian fissure. Well, this is referred to as the central sulcus, and everything anterior or rostral to the central sulcus is the frontal lobe, and everything, of course, also dorsal to the lateral fissure too. So this big chunk of tissue out here, and remember there's a left frontal lobe, and then there is a right frontal lobe, right? Now, if you go posterior to the central sulcus, right, or caudal to the central sulcus, you come to what's known as the parietal lobe, okay? And then the next lobe, as you continue in a caudal or posterior direction, is the very back, the most caudal or posterior region back here. This is the occipital lobe. Now, while the frontal lobe is separated from the parietal lobe by a very clear, central sulcus, lateral fissure, the separation between the parietal lobe and the occipital lobe is a little less clear in many individuals. In fact, separating the occipital lobe, this most caudal lobe, from parietal, right, and from this great big thumb of cortical tissue that extends ventral to the lateral fissure, right, which is called the temporal lobe. This is the temporal lobe beneath your temples, right? There's a notch around here in the sulci that's referred to as the parieto-occipito-temporal notch, and so it's a little harder to clearly distinguish, the borders between occipital and parietal and occipital and temporal. There's a little bit more variability there from individual to individual. Now, again, there is a fifth lobe of cortex, right, that is kind of hidden beneath the lateral surface here. You have to head in more medially through the lateral fissure, right? And as you go inside, the cortical tissue goes up, then goes down around back. This is quite medial, and then comes back up, and then comes out again towards us through the lateral fissure. So I'm going to take off, first of all, the cerebellum, which likes to fall off, and then I'm going to remove this, and you can start to see some of that insular cortex, which is hidden sort of much deeper within the lobes here, or within the lateral surface of the brain. It's much more medial, and the insular lobe is pretty much the fifth lobe of the brain.